welcome to round 5 of the Automobilista Australia Rookie Cup. I was about to say Touring Car Championship, but that is next week. So we are 5 minutes into the qualifying session, and tonight we've been joined in the commentary booth by none other than El Chief.
I never know when your intros are going to end and I should start speaking, but hello everybody.
And we've also been joined by none other than Automobilista Australia's favourite ginge, Brent Foley.
Great intro. Thanks, Lewis. Hi, everyone.
And well, we're 5 minutes in, and currently we're obviously at the Spielberg circuit. The Scruff can't contain his laughter. But yes, obviously 5 minutes in, we are at the Spielberg circuit, the national layout. Obviously, some of you might know this circuit better as the A1 ring, or currently is the Red Bull ring in Austria. And currently Steve is continuing his hot qualifying form, setting a 1 minute 1.698, which is currently P1.
You're on your own for a minute, sorry.
And obviously Scruff obviously has completely lost his shit, but we will follow a lap with well, he's Fernando Bruno on screen, but we did have another name for him, but I can't remember because Scruff has completely lost it.
Poiter.
That's it. So,
we've got Steve, we've got Poiter, and Hoops we'll be referring to as... That's when you say it.
Coops, I thought it was someone else.
Oh, that's right, it's River Whisper, that's the one.
And River Whisper is, well, he is now Barnsey. So River Whisper, when you do watch this, mate, you are from now on to be known as Barnsey. In fact, we'll ride with Barnsey as he jumps up to 7th place, 1 minute 3.6 with just under 8 minutes remaining.
Oh, that's not me a bad, bad. I'm sorry, I gotta go.
So, you can see River Whisper running a little bit wide there. And in fact, going back to the pit. So we'll jump up. Scott Morrill currently up on his PB, and well, he's run wide there. Penultimate turn, that'll be a track cut, so this lap won't count. Unfortunately, there's two number 84 cars on the track. Scott Morrill is one of them, and I believe who's the other one? The other 84.
That would be Gary Neville.
Gary Neville. That's what happened. Someone has changed the server settings, and
it appears to have just been random as to which ones the memory set when I changed all the settings to the correct ones.
So, try and find a driver for us to follow.
One of the typically brilliant things that AMS does is decide not to do anything at all.
True.
Bulger's just about to start his lap.
Steve.
You're a bit behind there. He has already started this lap. Just check, yes. He's on a lap at the moment.
Big Dog is on a good first sector. He's just going through the middle section at the moment.
He's currently in a decent form at the moment. He's currently sitting P4 on a 102.4 as he disappears there. The Big Dog has disappeared. He's gone. Got a lag everywhere. Oh, disappeared. Oh, he's...
Yeah, on my timing, he hasn't had the best second sector.
It's, I'm going to assume he's been... No, he's back, but I think aliens are trying to abduct him. That's why he's warping all over the place. So we'll follow Scott Morrill for the moment. He's currently going through turn 2.
Steve's just gone a bit faster with his lap on a 101.69, so 101.7.
Yep, and obviously Shane with P2s, obviously he's another one under the 1 minute.
Yeah, he's just come out to the finish line now on a very good lap. Looks like he could be about to go top, as he does with a 101.623. Just under a tenth of a second up on Steve. who in turn is followed by Poiter.
Scott Morrill up on his PB, who we're following at the moment. Will he continue that in the final sector? It's looked clean so far. And obviously got a track cut. That didn't count. We've got Shane Witt on... well, he was on a purple middle sector, but just cut to him as he binned it. So obviously that lap in the bin, and he's gone back to the pits. So we'll follow Shane Witt. In fact, jump on board for a lap. He's done another 1 minute. 1.6 on his previous lap, and his distance down on this lap, so he's not going to match it this time around. So hopefully it continues, and I'll talk us through a lap of this Spielberg National Circuit. Shane Witt crosses the line with a 1:02.3, not a bad lap. So you want to brake at about 90 metres for turn 1, down to third gear, take a bit of curve as he does, run it out. Not too far. You want to be hitting 120 as that curve finishes. Brake at about 50 metres for turn 2. You can carry a bit of entry speed to the mid part of the corner, and then you want to tuck it right in to set yourself up for turn 3, which is done. Take a bit of curve through turn 3, don't run too wide at 4. And obviously nice flat run to the penultimate corner, where you want to be slowing down at about 80 metres, 80 to 90 metres. I take it in 4th gear. He goes down again, looks like he's entering the pits. But that final turn, there's a sleeping policeman on the left hand side of the track, one of those yellow curbs. Brake about 10 metres before that and go down to 3rd gear for the final turn. But while that's been going, Shane Witt has jumped up and put himself on pole position.
Yeah, quite close between Shane and Steve, and they've got Poiter in the pits but under half a second behind, so hopefully we'll see him get back out there for one last run. He's not too far away and could, with on such a short track, I guess is a fair improvement, but he could get himself up onto that front row and perhaps even in pole position. Just strings a couple corners a little bit better together than he has previously.
That's it, obviously that middle sector is quite crucial around here. Turn 1 is fairly, obviously that's the only corner in sector 1. Still, you can lose a little bit of time, and it's easy to obviously cut the track, but all that time really around this circuit in that middle sector, through turn 3, through turns 2 and 3, you want to get a good exit out of there. As Steve goes right back up, half a tenth faster, and a 101.562 there.
Like to see Poiter and Barnsey ahead of Shane Witt, because I think that would be great to commentate on those three. Yes. leading the way.
It would be quite good.
Not to show favouritism, I mean,
but just I know what you mean. Obviously, we do
for
want
the
those
people
names.
at home.
We do want those big names up there, so hopefully the big dude can find a bit of time and we can chuck him into the mix as well.
What was that?
It's interesting that we've only got a minute 40 to go and we've got quite a lot of them in the pit lane. They'd have to start coming out quite soon in order to do another lap.
It's true. See, Shane Witt has just left the pits, I believe, so he's got blue flags behind him. Well, he's been shown the blue flags for the car behind him.
That is Big Dog behind him. Sorry, Big Dog! Interesting that Poiter has elected to stay in the pits this I think he can, even if he left, get another lap.
And Scott Murrell, well, that's gone on. He's just crossed the finish line. He's moved up to 2nd place on a 106 or 101.613.
That's 8 tenths quicker than his previous best time in the session. So a great lap there.
That is close to, oh, that is his personal best around here. Obviously, in practice, he set a 101.7. Well, Steve, that's a personal best for him, and Shane Witt is, I believe that's around about his personal best as well. So it's good to see. Obviously, the front three covered by less than a tenth of a second, and got Poiter 4 tenths back. So Steve
has Shane Witts just started his last lap, and it looks like Steve will
He's
get
going to
around
get.
at enough time for one more.
He did. Obviously, he did set a very good lap time that time round. It was only. It was less than a tenth off his own time there, so he's very close.
Point zero two five.
Yeah, so he's gone back to the pit, so his session's over. So
Shane Witts, the last man on track, not with it.
and Barnsley's just exited the pits, but it's not going to matter because the session's ended, and well, we've got no one else on track. So that's it.
Bold call there from Barnsley.
Yeah, Barnsley trying the old "I'm going to break the rules and see if I can get a lap after time expired" trick. Let's see how that plays out.
Just jump the start.
That's it. Just do doughies off the start line.
He's not Brian Walsh in the last 100.
So obviously that is the qualifying session done and dusted. Obviously we'll just bring those standings up for you. It doesn't have the lap times, but that is the order right there. Obviously we've got Stuyve on pole position. We've got Scott Murrell in P2. Shane Witt P3. And we've got Poiter P4. The big dog in P5. White Coulston P6. Coops, I believe this is his first round. Did a decent job in P7. Gary Neville P8. We've got Barnsey. He's in P9 and he's giving Brian Walsh and Glenn Miles the bird. And we'll just take a short break as obviously I go through a driver's briefing with the drivers, but we shall be back shortly.
someone behind me, I'll probably call when I'm going in the pit.
Yeah.
You're pretty sure you're the only Pro B driver in here, right?
Yeah, pretty sure I am. Other than Big Dog.
Big Dog's he's Pro M.
Ah, okay.
Alright.
Sorry, Big Dog.
Alright, lads, good luck.
Try throwing you under the bus.
He nearly had 50 kg weight.
Did someone ask for 50 kilos?
Oh, no.
Alright, good luck.
Really?
Yep. Hello.
Hi.
I got me jandals going.
Your jandals.
Yeah, got me jandals going. Swapped out the winter jandals for me jandals.
I got a Jamison.
I got a second double jack. Topher had a set of testicles he'd be racing.
Alright, I'm just about... No, I have unmuted us. Damn.
Oh.
Maybe everybody heard the thing. Oh,
Oh, Topher heard me saying he doesn't have
No,
a
it
set
was
of
muted
testicles.
before.
okay, well. I've come back and obviously it's unmuted. Anyway, welcome back. See, still currently in warm-up session, still 1 minute 45 to go. But while that's going on, I think we'll go obviously talk about the championship for a moment. If I can bring up the standings, there we go. So obviously Brendan Ross currently leading the championship on 100 points. He's got a massive lead over second place Steve. But Ross not here tonight, so big opportunity for Steve to claw back. Obviously 15 points for a win, takes both races. That'll be good 30 points, and that'll bring him to 89 points. So that'll bring it back down to 11 points for the final 2 rounds at Velo Park and Interlagos. And then behind him, Ad's not here. David Keane not here, and the next closest is Gary Neville in P5.
We do have David Keane making stupid comments on the live chat though.
Well,
So with us in spirit, but still very disappointing.
well, he's a pussy for not, obviously not showing up. So he can make all those comments, but ultimately he's not here, so we can make as much fun of him as we can. To be honest.
To be honest, we would if he was here.
True. And then obviously, so we've got quite a few missing. And obviously Gary Neville, the last that we spoke about. Mike Coulston is in P6.
He's been in good form lately as well.
His form has improved a little bit on the up, but as you can see on our screens at the moment in the championship standings, he's not had a podium as yet. His best result being he's had 3 fifth places, so just consistently in that midfield, not making too many mistakes, but just lacking a little bit of pace to sneak onto that podium. And then below him we've got Luke Joyner, who again is another one that is not here today on 35 points. As you see, not on our screens, but Scott Morrill not happy as time tipped over to 0. So threw it into the wall. Oh, and then below that, you see we've got Shane Witt, who's only been here for 2 rounds, and he's got 30 points. 3 fourths and a fifth. He's obviously third. Also qualified third for race 1 here, so he's a good chance to get his first podium, as his best results being 3 fourth places and a fifth. So he's been not too bad, but just hasn't quite had the pace or the luck to sneak onto a podium himself as well. Then we've got the big dog in 9th, who's he had a little bit of a spike in form a few weeks ago, but it sort of dropped off a little bit of late. And Topher, he's missed a few rounds due to obviously being busy, and obviously this week he's missing due to illness, so hopefully he gets well soon. And Brian Walsh, who has had he's improved this season, it must be said. Looking much more confident in the minis. He's on 22 points. Ozrob has only showed up for the one round at Yakarapagua. And then Scott Morrill for the previous round, and Glenn Miles, followed by Turmo and Poida. And Aussie and Bazza have yet to score. So the formation lap has got underway, and we'll go through the grid. I'll go through the first 3 cars, and then obviously Scruff, you can do the next 3, and Foley, you can do the final 4. So we've got Steve on pole position, Scott Murrell P2, and Shane Witt in P3.
And following on from Shane Witt, we have Poida in P4. Big Dog, who hasn't made the grid, is in P5 and will be starting from the pits and hopefully knows not to cross the exit line. And in P6 we have Mike Coulson. Foley, take it away.
P7 we have Coops, who's disappeared on my screen, but I know he's popped back up now. P8 Gary Neville. P9 we got Barnsey. P10 Brian Walsh, and P11 Glenn Miles. But behind them could possibly be Big Dog if he comes out of the pits and starts from pit lane.
He hasn't left his garage at the moment. And obviously next time you do say Barnsey, Foley, just put a little bit more emphasis and oomph into it, please.
I'll make sure I work on that.
The alternate is just to say to as Ocker as possible and give him the full Barnsey.
Barnsey.
Barnsey, mate. How are you, Barnsey? Hope he does well so we can interview him.
Just about to get underway.
5 lights.
Oh, someone's reversed on
Car
the
in
grid.
reverse.
Coops is reversed on the grid. Just go back for a moment. He is blocked Barnsey quite badly there. So I don't know what the hell Coops is doing. Obviously panicked a little bit when he started to roll on the grid. And Scott Morrell's got a good start. And he's into the lead.
Great start there from Murrell getting through into first at the first corner. They've got someone behind them, and I haven't reached my keyboard in time. They got Poida behind him having a look.
He's going to look for the lead.
He's trying to get 2 in 1.
Doesn't quite get there, but he moves up to P2.
Good effort there from him though. He's right on the back of Murrell now.
We do have Big Dog very slowly trundling down the pits, disappearing and reappearing again, so I presume it's lag being an issue.
He's probably trying to fix those internet issues, and obviously missed the start. And now we've got Shane Witt having a look at Steve, and once again Steve, a shocking start. He's had pole in all but one of the races that he's done so far.
Well, we've just had Coops lose it out of the second last corner in front of Big Dog. Not Big Dog. Glenn Miles, sorry.
That was the worst Big Dog anyone's ever said.
Let's go back and have the replay of that and see what he's done here. So it's locked up a little bit. Lost the back end. Sort of half spun it, and it's got to the back there. So Big Dog tries to get away, but he's still having issues. And Steve has got past Poida, and is now looking at the back of Scott. Obviously going back to that sort of half spin there for Coops. I think a lot of these guys don't realise is that when it gets sideways like that, just plant the foot and it'll save it. You'll be able to not have a half spin or spin, because being front wheel drive had more power and it straightens the car out. But that's something that these guys need to learn. It's why they're here in the Rookie Cup. Looks like Poida very close into the turn 1. He's going to brake very late.
He's overshot that one by a long way.
He's closer to the moon than what he is the apex of turn 1 there.
And these guys are coming up on the back of Big Dog!
I did also notice on the back straight that both Morrell and Poida ran wide as well, so I presume track cuts could become an issue late in the race.
Yep, well, win. Yes, both the laps did not count in that last lap, and track cuts will be a big thing here. It's very easy to do at turn 1, the penultimate turn and the last turn. So
yeah, you've been out there quite a lot. I was just going to ask if you got the track cut running wide between the final 2 corners, but allegedly you do.
yes, it is very easy to do, and it's easy to do. Obviously, if you turn in too much, as I believe Buda would have got one for what he just did there through through the final turn. There, it's too much curb. So we'll just have.
Yeah, Murrow will have one too from the previous lap. But these guys are not really trying to keep him in the break, as Shane Witt sets the fastest lap we've had so far with a 1:02.0.
So this front four very close together now. Stewie having a look at Scott Wall, who does have 50 kilos on board. See, being a Pro B runner.
Well, Poiter trying to hang it around the outside too. Good run from him there. A little bit of contact between them.
Steve lost the back end a little bit. That's going to put him in the wrong line really through this fast section. So they're going to go side by side all the way until the penultimate corner. No, just lifted out a little bit, and that's given Shane Witt a good run.
We have Coops in the pits already as well.
He did have a penalty for jumping the start and reversing, so that'll be.
He has stopped though. It was a drive-through from what I remember.
So he's made a mistake in reading what penalty he had, and he'll have to come in and do another. Well, he might get himself disqualified actually.
Yeah, not too sure there. He may have had to have taken a penalty on that lap. So when he comes around again, he may be in a fair bit of trouble.
And he's going to come out just in front of the leaders as well. So he's probably wants to get out of it, and he's sort of hindered Steve as he looked at Scott Moore there. And
oh, we've got Poiter around. Poiter has gone around.
Yes, he has. And Shane went awkwardly getting around Coops there. So we'll go back. Let's have a look. What has he done here?
Barnesy only a second behind Poiter now.
So, yeah, Poiter got on the grass in the braking zone, and round she went. And on behind him now, Gary Neville pulling off Barnesy. And
oh, Shane Witt's gone around, coming out of the second last corner too. He's now blocking the pit entry, and there's contact.
Made contact with Coops there. I don't know if Coops has any damage, but
as soon as I saw Shane going around, I was fairly confident that would happen. Otherwise, we would more than likely see Coops get disqualified. And Witt looks like he's going to take his stop now while he's in the pit, and Coops has been disqualified.
Yep, so let's see the replay of Shane losing the back end at the turn. Replay and see as Steve Bolger has gone into the lead as we were going before that. So Coops,
he got himself more than a second gap as well. So Murrow will just have to get his head down here and maybe try and get some good laps in towards the end of this stint.
Coulston in the fence as well.
Coulston in the fence as well, as Foley cuts across me without any apology.
He's got damage. So he's just come in too hot to turn 2 by the looks of it, and bang, there goes the front end of that Mini. So he come under pressure from behind. He broke about 10 metres too late, tried pulling it up, got on the marbles too quick, and well, yeah, the front end of that thing is gone. But he's going around slowly. So he'll be able to repair that and keep that going and pick up a couple of points.
These first 2 runners are very evenly matched around the entire track. There are a few spots where Murrell's just slowly starting to bring him back in, and then in the next sector, Bolger is just able to pull back away.
See, the final sector's probably going to hurt more.
That seems to be where he's best, especially out of the final corner. He was catching, not a lot, but a few, a tenth or so down the start-finish straight. Bolger with a great run through the second last corner, gets a little bit sideways but catches it nicely.
Missed the 8, but you probably want to take a little bit of curve through that final turn there.
Yeah, he was offline a bit after the car got a little bit squirrel on him out of the second last corner, so just trying to get it in there, and I think he's done quite well.
Still put a bit of time in that final sector on Morrell's. Probably his tyres have probably hurt it a little bit. Obviously he's running 50 extra kilos.
Coulston did manage to get the damaged car to pit lane, but I presume we'll be there for a while.
Got Steve in first place, from Murrell in second and Poiter in third, and to our viewers' delight, we also have Barnsey. He's in up to fifth place.
He was all over the back of Gary Neville, but so Gary Neville in the last lap or two sort of eked out a little bit of a gap over him now. And,
yellow flag in the final sector. We've got someone around. I
it's a
can't
yellow
see who
mini.
that is.
It's a yellow
That
mini.
is Shane Witt.
So he's gone around again.
Yeah, that second last corner not being kind to him in this race.
Just having a look at the replay right now. It's come in too hot on the marbles, and once again, the same problem as Coops on the first lap is that he's not staying on the throttle.
He used reverse.
Not this time. But all he needed to do when people get sideways in these things, and it looks like you're going to spin, put the throttle down. That's all they need to do, and it'll save him. But he got off the throttle, which is not what you want to do, and round she went.
Poiter in third has been lapping significantly quicker than both first and second in the recent laps, making up a big amount of that margin they had.
He is locking up quite a lot though into corners, and a little bit more wheel spin than the others on the way out, so he may struggle towards the end of his stints.
Well, that said, he's only got to really last 2 more laps though, because you probably don't want to go, ooh, that's going to be a track cut.
That's Shane Witt around again.
Yeah. So he's not learnt from his lesson. Keep your foot in it, son. But you only really want your tyre. You probably want to pit on lap 11. You don't really want to pit earlier, and you don't really want to go any further than half distance. The front, once that front left goes here, you're going to be dropping a bit of time.
Poiter has used almost 20% more of his front tyres so far though.
That's alright, he's only got to make him last another lap.
In the last lap he
doing
was 7 tenths quicker than both first and second.
Okay, he's doing a great job considering how much worse off his tyres are. Which in front wheel drive cars makes it significantly harder as you go along to put the power down at all, and he's doing a great
Back
job.
to the battle of fourth now. They've got Gary Neville has got Barnsey all over the back of him, and Brian Rolfe is right there with him. These guys are all up 4 spots. I don't believe there's been a couple of guys obviously make mistakes with Shane Witt dropping down and Coops being disqualified.
Gary, if you're watching this back, we love you, but we're pulling for Barnsey here.
Oh, it's got
So on to second.
yeah, we've just moved up just in time, and Poiter having a look on the inside. Will he pull it up this time? He does, but runs a little wide, and Scott's going to get him back on the inside to turn 2.
This is working in the favour of
Contact
Steve.
between Barnsey and Walsh at turn 1 as well.
Yeah, just nudging Barnsey off a little bit there, but looks like they've all come back on pretty much where they were beforehand.
All of them locked up, and all of them struggle to make the corner. Obviously Barnes getting a little bit of a nudge, but nothing malice in it, and they're all in the same position anyway. Now Barnsey is all over the back once again. Gary Neville into the penultimate turn. He's having a look. But quite close enough. He's having a look in the final turn. That's ambitious.
We have Murrell and Poiter in the pits.
He has, Barnsey has got into Gary's mirrors a little bit there, and he hasn't gone anywhere near the apex, so it looks like he is just maybe playing a few mind games out there. Try and unsettle Gary.
Deep. He's gone for it. That's going to be a track cut, and
Walshy not understanding the definition of lift.
well, I don't think he could in that situation. Right on board with him here.
But we're meant to shit talk everybody.
Poiter getting past Murrell in the pits as well.
Steve has stayed out, but he did have a fair lead over the other two.
He's
about
on his way
5
now.
seconds, I think.
He's entering pits now.
So looking at that replay, Walsh had really nowhere to go and couldn't slow down anymore. He'd committed, and the two in front of him were going far too slowly, and now he's trying to go around the outside of the penultimate turn of Gary Neville, and he's done it. Looks like
And Gary's coming into the
Gary's
pits.
going into the pits.
Yeah, Barnesy got him too around that penultimate corner.
So that'll be wide. It's Walsh runs wide in the final turn. That'll be a track cut, I believe. See as he crosses the start. Oh, he would have probably got one early in that turn one. No, his lap did count, and he currently leads. So if he holds on, he'll lead the lap. And that's it. Looks like his pit crew are getting ready. So as he runs wide there, the final, the first turn, I should say, as does Barnesy.
Shane Witt right behind these two. He's a lap down at the moment, so we'll be hoping that they come in soon so he can just get on and try and get a little bit more consistent, we'll say, through the penultimate corner for race 2.
So, look at the gaps now after the pit stops, and it looks like Steve's got he's got almost a 6-second gap over Poiter in second place, and
It looked like to me his pit entry was far more aggressive than Poiter's.
Oh, that's not how you enter the pits at all, boys.
they were told in the briefing. That must stay right of that line on pit entry, and River Whisper has come straight in.
Yeah,
Broken that.
Barnesy and Walsh have both done the exact same thing there. With Witt behind him, that was not the best situation to see going on.
No, that will be a post-race penalty of some sort for both drivers. It's Steve, Peter, and Scott Merrill go through.
Brian Walsh leading for most of a lap there. If he had kept going, he would have led for the whole lap. People just they just don't think sometimes.
Barnesy gets going, and Gary Neville has jumped them quite easily there.
Looks like Poiter has managed to stretch a bit of a gap out on Murrell as well through the pit stops, and probably just that extra bit of effort he's been putting in.
It was faster before the pit stops.
Again, that'll be interesting coming towards the end of the race, though he is using a fair bit more tyre, and if he's trying to chase down Steve, he may use a little bit more, and that may bring Murrell back into it for the second place.
Well, at this point, with that gap, it is worth just chucking all caution out the window and trying to close it down.
Is it ever not worth it?
Well,
Exactly.
the gap is 4.5 seconds between Poiter and Steve, and we're on 2.1 behind Poiter.
Brian Walsh almost losing it on the second last corner, but gassed it up using your advice and saved it pretty nicely.
Glenn Miles and Shane Witt are fairly close on track at the moment, although it looks like Miles is having major issues through the penultimate corner, and perhaps no, he's kept it out of the wall, but he's lost any hope of even watching Shane go around, as he now has someone behind him to lap him. That is...
Turn one. Yeah, let's close the gap up between him and Barnesy.
Bulger is now right up on the back of Miles, so hopefully he gets out of the way well. Stays to the inside on the wrong line to get lapped.
Fastest lap for Poiter, 101.8. He's gained 1.1 seconds on that last lap. And probably would have gained a little bit more time in the first sector here, as Steve had to get around Glenn Miles, who looks like he's going to spear to the back of him for a second there.
He got out of the way well, coming down the straight, moved over and just lifted off and let Steve go.
Well, he's still 6/10 of a second though to Poiter behind, so it did cost him a little bit of time.
I think it's just down to who's got the better name.
Poiter.
Like going by that logic, we'd have Barnesy and Big Dog.
Well, Big Dog would be out in front. Sorry, Big Dog would be out in front by a good 10 laps. There's oh, Bruno, there we go. Well, Poiter has got himself a drive-through penalty that will be for track extending. So
yeah, pushing a little bit too hard there.
Yeah.
Jinx. As Miles leaving to the last second to get out of the way, this could get a little bit messy coming into the corner if he hasn't lifted off enough, but he has. As Peter goes wide again, trying to keep up with all these names is quite difficult.
So very sideways at turn 2. He's pushing too hard now. Is Peter, and
there's really no need for it now. If he keeps on the track, he pretty much has a guaranteed 3rd place.
What was his seat?
Miles off again.
Yes, he's off in the gravel trap there. In between turns 3 and 4.
Poiter not serving his penalty on this lap. He's in P1. Something's happened to Steve. Something has happened to Steve.
Murrell has spun.
What's happened to Steve? Oh, he's just dropped down on my timing. Sorry, guys.
It's like just a timing glitch. He's looking at the replay right now, and he's still P1.
Yeah, it was back up into P1 on my screen. It was just a couple seconds there where he was showing in 3rd place.
And, yes, penultimate turn. There it is. Replay Scott Murrell going around.
We've got Barnesy and Walsh are very close on track at the minute.
And there's yellow. Oh, there's
wheelless and poorly parked Glenn Miles there.
What has he done there?
It's an interesting spot to find yourself missing a wheel.
I don't know how he's managed that, but we'll have a look. That is a very, very odd accident. Looks like he's lost it under braking, but he's speared to the left. And then I don't know what he was thinking. It should have been. All he needed to do was just put a little bit of lock on to the left, and it would have been fine. But he didn't, and decided I would rather hit the barrier than save the car. And well, there we go. There's the front end of his mini hoop. And Poiter has just served his drive-through.
Just watching that crash back on the live stream, and if he had been a couple metres further up the road, that would have been the most impressive corner he would have ever taken.
Or he would have clipped the anti-cut thing and rolled it.
Equally as impressive.
But,
if he hadn't hit the wall, it was all win.
So I think we're going to stick with the final 3 laps remaining. We're going to stick with this Walsh and Barnesy battle. Closest one on track is Walsh.
Oh, Walsh is around.
Well.
You say it's close, and he goes ha 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 ha. No.
Did try and save it.
Could be on between him and Shane Witt now, though.
Shane Witt's going to get that position. Shane Witt will get it around the outside, and there it is. So, well, it was a close battle. It's close no more.
And a fairly good comeback for Shane Witt after his troubles through the penultimate corner. David Keane, just because you can't spell doesn't mean you can be a smart ass in the live chat. Had to get that one in there, sorry guys.
Murrell spinning a few laps ago and Poiter serving his drive-through penalty. He's come out only 1.8 seconds behind him still, so that could still be a battle if any of them make a mistake.
See, that's why we hired you, Foley.
Well, that is now the closest battle on track. Although the Witt-Walsh battle is similarly, well, the gap is fairly similar.
Ooh, Murrell just getting the arse out a little bit through that penultimate corner.
These minis don't like those bigger curves. They don't handle it quite as well as a lot of other cars. And if you get those rear tyres on them, obviously we have seen these cars go around pretty easy on them. So pushing a little bit too hard there. He's done it once already. He doesn't want to do it again with Peter 1.5 seconds behind.
Yeah, Poiter on the last lap was slower. No, he wasn't. There we go, it's updated. He was over almost 3 tenths faster as Brian Walsh gets a drive-through penalty. That must be for track cuts.
Oh, he goes very right the final turn. We'll just have a look and see what he's done there.
Both Scott Murrell and Poiter are currently going incredibly quickly through the first sector. They look to be on track for each of them for the fastest lap of the race, so certainly delivering in the final few laps. Not sure how much closer Peter will be able to get, but he's certainly giving it his all.
He would have to be driving somewhat conservative though, because he would not have any more chances after that penalty with track cuts.
Conservatively.
He did gain 0.2 of a second on that last lap, but it's not enough. And on the final lap now, with Stuyve 13 seconds up the road.
Gap has come down to a second, and he's braked incredibly late into the second corner, just trying to take everything off he can. The gap's now under 0.6 of a second. Stretches back out, obviously not able to get the exit.
And Morrell's taken a not ideal line through 3 and 4 there, and that's going to give Peter a good run in the penultimate turn here. He might even have a chance to
Holger
pass
has
him.
spun on the second last corner, just quickly.
He has.
Cap is coming down.
And second and third are going to approach it side by
Peter
side.
up the inside, there's contact in this penultimate corner. He's got in front, Murrow will have one last chance to throw it out the inside, he doesn't do it. He's got very high up on the curb
So
there,
it's
contact with the back of Peter.
Action-packed final lap there with Steve trying to throw it away. He almost did, and Peter on the the penultimate corner, after a slight mistake coming out of turn 3 and 4, Scott Murrell gave Peter that good run into the penultimate turn and got the job done. Scott Murrell, 3rd place.
That was a balls to the wall podium.
Final gap only being 1.8 seconds, down from 13.
So he's lucky that obviously Scott Murrell had that spin and Peter had that drive through, otherwise he would have blown another race there. And P4, Gary Neville, a good solid result there for the Englishman. And
Sorry Lewis, we got some reverse donuts from Scott Murrell.
Yes, there we go, cut to him right there. And obviously P5 we had Barnesy, did a nice solid job. Shane Witt recovered to P6 in the end. And
a good recovery from Shane there to get back up into 6th place after the early trouble he had.
The gap was almost a lap, I believe, so he did it fairly...
I believe when we had Brian Walsh in the lead, he was actually a lap down from Brian Walsh, so he's done well, very well to get back.
And obviously he had to make
back in front of Brian Walsh.
I do believe he pitted fairly early as well, so he did great job to recover. Obviously, yeah, there we go. Shane Witt, P6, and Brian Walsh. Obviously, he was battling pretty hard there with Gary Neville and Barnesy for a while, but a couple mistakes and obviously a drive-through penalty cost him and sent him back to P7. Mike Coulston, P8, and then 2 DNFs of the Big Dog, who was plagued by internet issues, and Glenn Miles having that odd incident before turn 1, and Coops, so he got disqualified for not serving a drive-through penalty correctly for a jump start / reversing on the grid, and that is the result for race 1, round 5, and obviously I think Steve probably driver of the race in some respects, but probably again not as clean as what he would have liked.
Yeah, no, definitely not without his troubles there in the first race tonight. Obviously, with the spin on the final lap, it was a lot closer in the results than it otherwise would have been. Peter with a great race as well. He did a fantastic job getting into 2nd place, and Murrell, with his issues, still doing quite well to bring it home in 3rd.
Yeah, obviously, Murrell probably should have been P2, but yeah, obviously did try to get through to the drivers that turn 2 and 3 are obviously the most vital corners on the track. You get them wrong and there's a big long run to that penultimate corner, the Rint curve, named after former champion Jochen Rindt. And yeah, obviously big run down there. It gave Peter a good run, good long run to get a good slipstream, and then he just sent it and got that position at the end. But obviously we did have a couple good drives. Obviously Gary Neville, obviously P4, good solid drive from him. And Brian Walsh was having a decent drive up until obviously his race sort of fell apart just around the pit stop time in the middle part of the race as well.
Yeah, he got that drive-through penalty for the track cuts to Brian Walsh, and after then it was pretty much just nurse at home, make sure you get the points, and see what you can do in race 2. Going by his recent performances and his form in that race, I know I got the phrasing backwards for those 2 sentences, but we'll gloss over that. Interested to see what he can do in the second race. It does look like he's got reasonable pace and should be able to fight for the top 5, I believe.
True that. Is it? Have you got anything else to add, Mr. Foley, or have we covered everything?
My drive of the race really goes to probably Gary Neville for just driving consistently without making mistakes to come home in a strong 4th to kind of gain some points on the people around him, which aren't here tonight.
Hello and welcome back. We are in qualifying 2 for race 2. Pardon me, round 5 of the Automobilista Australia Rookie Cup. Just got underway and we've got drivers starting, well, currently going through their first timed laps. We're currently following Shane Witt, who had an eventful race one. We'll be hoping to put that behind him and put in another solid qualifying effort as he goes through the penultimate turn where he had a couple of incidents there in the first race. And now coming through the final turn, I believe he'll be the first one to set a lap time. And let's see what he does. 1 minute 2.8. So obviously probably won't be too happy with that. That said though, the track isn't as rubbered in as what it would be, or what it was for qualifying 1 with there being no practice. Obviously the server being reset, but he's up on his second lap.
Coops with a 105.3 for his first lap, so definitely a fair margin for improvement from everyone as they get used to the lower track grip and as it also grips up a little bit more.
Obviously, another thing with Coops is that he hasn't obviously been in the car for a good 17 or 18 minutes, so he's sort of feeling his way back into it. Shane Witt now half a second up on his previous time. And a good run through the last 2 turns there, so this should be a low 1 minute 2, perhaps even a high 1 minute 0.1. And there it is, 1 minute 2.2. Not a bad lap, good banker, but he'll be hoping to improve.
Brian Walsh currently in 3rd place with a 104.9. So not the worst time you can imagine for this qualifying session with the lower track grip, and he'll be looking to improve obviously. Keep his times and hopefully qualify in that top 5 and see what he can do in the race.
Brian Walsh, Mike Coulston and one of the 84 cars, I believe it's Scotland, but I can't be...
It may be Gary Neville, because he is the other one.
Yes, yes, probably is Gary Neville, considering he has just set a lap time. Shane Witt up on his own first sector, and he's the first one in qualifying 2 to dip under the 1 minute 2 mark with a 101.946, and well, his first attempt at his next lap, that'll be a track cut. So we'll drop back.
So far, Murrell's had 2 attempts and 2 track cuts. Just noticed.
Very easy to do around here.
Well, if we're doing a one-shot style qualifying session, going by this, only the horrible and disgusting cheat that is Jamie Snow would be able to actually set a time.
It's very correct.
That's if he doesn't bowl it on his lap.
He just takes the meaning of one shot to be more of a suggestion.
Well, that might be something we might see in future series to mix up the grid and shorten race events. Shane Witt is entering the pits, so we'll follow Steve, and who's currently pretty much 4 tenths up on his own personal best.
Yeah, that'll put him pretty much on par with Shane Witt at the moment. He's currently just under half a second off with his best lap time.
Lost a little bit of time in the final sector, but still improved on his own time. In fact, jump on board with him for this current lap. So coming down to turn 2, you want to be looking out for the 50 board. There it is, down to 3rd gear. Carry a bit more speed in there, hug it into the right hand side. Take a bit of curve through turn 3. Don't go too wide, which he's just done, that'll be a track cut. or if not, it would have cost him time regardless. And he's gone to the right hand side, so it looks like he's going to walk this lap, and he does. Thank you very much, Steve, for ruining that lap. So
It's almost like that idiot I went on board with on Thursday.
So we'll jump on board with Big Dog, who was at the same spot. So braking about 80 metres with the penultimate turn. He's gone down to gear too many there. Take a bit of curb. And, well, he's avoiding his lap as well, so that's pretty disappointing. Big Dog. You might find yourself with an additional penalty for being a dog.
On the bright side, it seems like he may have fixed his internet issues because he hasn't had lag so far this session.
So
He generally doesn't during the qualifying sessions. Once we go into the race, that seems to cause a bit of issues, so we'll keep an eye on that one. Not that we can do anything about it, I just wanted to say something that sounded professional.
Barnsley held up a little bit on his laps, but he's gone around again, so we'll follow him this time around on board lap from his right hand side of his rear wing as he gets a track cut at the exit of turn 1, so he's bowled that lap already.
He is doing better, Barnsley, in this qualifying session. He's in 6th place at the moment. Not too far behind Big Dog! And Scott Murrell.
Scott Murrell not having a qualifying session so far. Obviously last time out he actually hadn't had the weight penalty applied to him. But that said, he should still be a little bit quicker than what he is at 102.791 as it stands.
Very similar, other than the weight penalty of Scott Murrell to the top 4's the same. The orders just changed slightly with Murrell in 4th place, promoting Poiter up into 3rd. I believe Poiter starting from 4th in the first race. And the top 2 almost inseparable once again.
I believe someone's just had an accident at turn 1 there. Did you hear an old crunch? And it is Gary Neville.
He'll be right.
We'll have a look at the replay. Obviously not too happy with the lap. He's kept his foot in it.
Shane Witt has... No, wait. Scott Murrell, sorry. Has just gone ahead of Poiter with a 102.1.
A very hot start to this next lap.
Quarter of a second behind Shane Witt in pole position, so could be able to make a bit of a challenge with a couple marginal improvements in a couple of places, and might well be able to get himself onto that front row.
He's quite handy at the moment. He's sort of picked himself up a little bit, was down a little bit earlier, but seems to have found a little bit of a groove as he goes all the way to the right hand side, and well, he got this lap. So every time we go on board someone who's on a decent lap, they seem to just award it. So a bit frustrating. Seems like Steve very slowly moving, either trying to cool the tyres down for whatever reason, or just to give himself a bit of a gap. Looks like he's about to start the time lap, so we'll follow him around and see what kind of lap time he can set. There's Shane Witt has a purple first sector at the moment. What can Shane Witt do in sector 2?
Very good time through the first sector there for Shane Witt.
And he's 2/10 up in the second sector, so this is a good lap
He
so far.
does have traffic though. Mike Coulson not too far away from him on my timing screen.
I don't think he would have held him up though. It was further enough down the road. Might even get a little toe down the straight there.
My time is a long way behind the actual action.
And he's found another 10th, so there it is, a 101.582. So that's
half a second between him and Steve in second place. So
that's 100th of a second off qualifying 1 pole time. So track conditions not affecting him at all.
They do seem to be affecting Poiter though. He seems to be struggling in the second and third sector compared to
yeah, he's just been surpassed by Big Dog for 4th place.
The Big
Dog, I obviously mean Big Dog!
Speaking,
4th place.
Speaking of the Big Dog, we were right on board with him through the final 2 turns here. So a bit of curve there, penultimate turn.
Barnsley, who had a flying start to this qualifying session, now finds himself in 7th place. So not improving with the track conditions at the same moment.
The big dog has moved up to P2. He had a fantastic final sector. Found 210. And, well, he's always binned it on his next attempt. But good to see the big dog up there in P2.
Foley, if you could just take over for a minute, I need to tend to my wounded throat.
So watching Steve, and not a bad lap from him there, but very close to his own personal best, but couldn't quite improve. He's half a second off Shane Witt's very good lap time. Just cut back to Scott Murrell and see what he can do in this middle sector. His first sector is a couple of tenths down on Shane Witt's time, but he'll be hoping to get a PB middle sector. And no, 3 tenths down. So at the moment, looks like Shane Witt's going to have a comfortable gap to P1 as Scott Murrell tries and, well, a different line through the final turn there. So I doubt this lap will count for him, and it did.
Barnsley's just got himself up into the 6th place with a 102.685. Looks like he's improved by about half a second, maybe a little bit more.
He's up again on this next lap, so we'll follow Barnsey. And, as he gets it all kinds of sideways through turn 2, and, well, this lap is completely... He's gave this lap the bird.
Yeah, you'll need to very quickly back in and then get straight back out to get another lap in here.
Interestingly, Peter is still in the pits and has been the last 4 or 5 minutes, so...
He did this in the first qualifying as well. In the first qualifying, did the same thing. He got himself into a decent position, wasn't too far away from improving again, but just didn't go back out.
So someone's up
Rural's has had a massive off.
I did see
Shane Witt's just gone back out for one last run. As I try and remember who I'm looking at, that's right. I'm looking at Barnsey, who has yet to leave the pits again. I'd say his chances of improving are pretty much over at this stage, depending on how far up the pit lane his garage is. And no, he's not going to get back out in time now. 6th place, the best that Barnsey can hope for, with Peter right in front of him on the 3rd row.
So Steve getting another lap here. We'll ride on board his rear wing. He's currently up on his personal best by 0.08. So it's a little bit sideways through turn 2 there. The greatest run through turn 2. Probably a little bit wider than he would have liked through turn 3 and 4 there.
We've all had dates like that, Lewis.
We certainly have. Well, despite being a little bit wide, 2 tenths up on his own time, but 1.5 tenths down on Shane Witt in the middle sector. Quite good with that final turn there, so interesting to see how much he improves on his own lap here. Should go in front of Big Joe. If he does.
Does not by much, only a couple tenths between them, 3 tenths.
Well, that'll be.
Did Steve get around in time to start another lap, or no? He's gone back to the pits anyway, so it's irrelevant.
He did, but he got a track cut at turn 1 and just pressed escape anyway.
Well, that leaves us.
The only other one on track. Can't really do any time.
Like Alston.
The Englishman in the Middle East, drifting it through an ultimate turn there, but kept it good in it, just pushing hard, be on the brakes a little too late for the final turn there. That said, he's carried a decent amount of speed through there. He's only a tenth down his own time. We'll see if he improves here.
Coming up to the line now, he does not.
He was faster in that final sector, I believe, than what he was on his fastest lap, but obviously the first 2 sectors costing him there. And well, that's it on your screen right there, and on the left hand side, that is the grid. So we've got Shane Witt pole position, 101.582. A very good lap time on a less rubbered up track for him. Got Stuyve 1/10 behind. And then we got the big dog in P3. Great session from him. And then we've got Scott Murrell in P4. Struggled a little bit in that session. And then we've got Poiter, P5. Got Barnsey, P6. Mike Coulston, P7. Gary Neville, P8. Brian Walsh, P9. Glenn Miles, P10. And Coops is at the back of the grid.
Just before we go to the break that I am predicting, see what I've done there. If you are watching this at home and you have any questions that you'd like us to answer for you, then put them in the live chat with the hashtag #FuckFoley. That's all I wanted to say. I'm going to take my break now.
Yes, okay. And looking at the live chat, looks like Scott Morrill is complaining about the 50 kilogram of added fun to his car. But, well, that's what happens when you're a Pro B driver and you do join this, obviously, a Rookie Cup series. If you do complain further, it could be 255. So hopefully he steps into line. But obviously that session, a bit of a change-up. Obviously, Shane Witt did qualify at P3 for race 1, but massive improvement to find himself in P1 in the second session. And obviously Big Dog as well. Another one, obviously, between the two qualifying sessions to find a significant amount of pace. Obviously, it was towards the back of the midfield in qualifying for race 1, but fantastic lap time put in P3 for the second race. So hopefully we can see him up there. We were hoping he'd be up there for the first race, but hopefully he remains in that podium position in the second race, because we do want as many of these big names up the front as we can get. But just take a look at the championship standings for a moment. If I can find the correct. Certainly. So there you go. Obviously, gap between the two, 100 to 74 between Stuyve and Ross. And then really behind that, obviously Keane, he's not really a part of it. Adds too far back, and obviously he's not here. And well, after that last round, I think Gary Neville, he finished 4th, was it? So that should,
Yeah, it was 4th.
So that will move him up now into P3 in the championship. See, he's had 3 podiums. Did miss the Yakarapago round, but obviously good to see him up there. Hasn't had the pace of as obviously the Keens, Bolgers, and Rosses, but just consistency, and that is why he finds himself now in P3 in the championship. And behind him was Coulston. Now I'm trying to remember where he did finish in the previous race, but he should move up in front of, well, he should jump all those guys as well, I believe. Or
I believe Coulston was 8th.
8th, so that'll give him 3 points, so that should move him up then in front of, well, he'll be tied with Ads on 42 points, but just behind David Keane on 43, so he'll move up equal 4th, so still, or equal 5th I should say. No, equal, yes, equal 5th with Ads.
Got Mike Coulston, I believe that's who I last clicked on, but I may be mistaken. I am. It's Shane Witt doing a practice start there.
So
Apparently I haven't touched the game since qualifying, and it was still showing Coulston as my most recently selected driver.
Another thing to sort of, well, I'm surprised that Steve hasn't gone out there and practiced a start or two, because he always seems to, well, he qualifies well, and then at turn 1 and after, he finds himself a few positions down. Every time I'm pretty sure...
Cold tyres he seems to struggle on.
Cold tyres, or perhaps he's just over-conservative, obviously, on that first half a lap, and see, it can work. Obviously, you don't want to put damage on the car early, but sometimes getting stuck behind people that you're faster than can also compromise your race quite a bit too.
Now, I don't like to name names, so I won't. Ha! No, I actually have nothing to say. I just thought I should say that for my own entertainment.
Thank you for adding such knowledgeable information to the broadcast, Ruff. Thank you.
Foley gets it.
I get it, apparently.
He didn't get it.
Controversy is being caused.
And as we watch Shane Witt go around the circuit, obviously, I believe it has been brought up in past broadcasts, but for those that might have missed it, or if we hadn't brought it up and I'm just losing my mind a little bit, obviously next season the Rookie Cup will be moving to the Formula Trainer cars. So obviously a bit of a step up in power, but obviously grip compared to the Minis and obviously the Lancers of the season 1. But it should provide some good close racing and obviously give the rookies something faster to sink their teeth into and get to grips with. See, some of the admins done a little bit of running in them and found them quite enjoyable to drive, and they do teach you some good driving habits. And
we have Mike Coulston just stopped on the back straight. I was expecting him to do a practice start, but he's been sitting there for a little while.
Stopped on the back straight. This is a joke.
Perhaps he's just sipping some tea as he gets away.
Off again.
He's in the Middle East, so I'm trying to think if it is Saudi Arabia or if it's one of those other ones. If it is Saudi Arabia, perhaps he was under attack from a Yemen aircraft and was just taking cover.
Well, his name is the Saudi Camel, so one could only assume.
Well, he's about
This
to
is
park
like Saudi B Arabia.
Well, he's about to park it on the grid to practice a start, so we will ride on board with him and judge him harshly. And, well, he's got to wait terribly there. Lots of wheel spin, very slow.
In the correct gear, though.
True, he did go forwards, which is a plus, but still, could have gotten away a bit better there. I think Coops in race 2, he might try something controversial, but I think he might line up on the grid backwards and get away backwards. in reverse.
He would avoid a penalty that way.
He'd avoid a
If we
penalty
help.
that way, and then he'd J-turn it, and
I tuned out for my own mischief. Going back to J-turns.
just Shane Witt once again lose it at the penultimate turn. This time in the warm-up, he does not like that turn. But yeah, I reckon we could see a J-turn off the, well, down into turn 1, and could see him jump up a few spots.
Mandatory reverse start.
So Shane Witt do a practice start. Once again, he bogged it down as well. And
I
short shift.
personally haven't driven these cars much at all or tried to start them. Is it good to ride the clutch in these, Lewis?
I've not tested riding the clutch. I've just
I think they suck in every aspect.
well, they could use about 700 more horsepower and
No, actually, I put the Red Bull X1 engine into them not long ago, and it doesn't work. You'll get to
We'll try the
300,
Formula
but then
Ultimate next.
I'm just putting that engine in everything. You guys do whatever you want with the minis. You give me a freaking scooter, I'll put the engine in it.
so that's
Vespa
well, there we
400.
go. That is going to be the Rookie Cup next season. It's going to be scooters with the Formula Ultimate engine.
Use the X1 at 500k an hour Vespa.
And not only that,
Safety first.
not only that, will be round 1 will be at Macau, and round 2 that will be
At my horse.
round 3 is going to be at Monaco. Round 4 will be at Ribeiro Preto 2012. So good luck.
And I've actually had a track built for me that's a 10 to 20
Round 5
kilometres
can also
straight
be
with
the,
a jump at the end.
Taruma Super Truck circuit with
You
a
and
mandatory
super trucks
reverse
at the minute.
start.
So we have ticked over to the race session.
We should have got Southern Lewis.
You should have, but you didn't.
So far, Gary Neville has not made the grid.
He says, fuck, I hate this track. He's on the grid now, though.
Oh, there he is.
Left it late.
Big Dog has made it this time. Big Dog.
Nope, not doing it this time.
There's just not enough enthusiasm in that.
Yep. I'll just leave now.
See you, mate.
Fuck Foley.
So we're just about to begin the formation lap here. Here we go, as you see them all take off in the distance there. Although it looks like one of the cars off onto the grass there. So, we'll go through the same format as we did last lap. And obviously I'll go for the first 3 and then Scruff for the next, and then the final 4 will be the Ginger Ninja. So we've got Shane Witt, P1, Steve, P2, the Big Duke in P3.
P4, we've got the soon-to-be banned for life Scott Murrell. 5, we have Poiter. And in 6th place, to my great pleasure, we have Barnsey.
7th place, we got Mike Coulston. 8th place, Gary Neville. 9th place, we got Brian Walsh. 10th place, Glenn Miles. And at the rear of the grid in 11th place, we got Coops.
Yep, Mr. Reverse himself, P11.
Which his opponents must be quite happy about after having seen his start in race 1.
Well, as funny as it may seem, I do recall racing with someone who told me once that he raced in a race where the pole position getter went reverse off the start line and caused a massive crash. So it could have been worse. And thankfully it only held up one car. So
Do we like the guy who was in the held up car? Because if we don't like him, then who gives a shit?
it's Automobilista, we like everybody. Okay.
We don't.
So all the drivers are formed up onto the grid. Let's hope they all find the right gear this time. Shane Witt a long way back in his pits, in his grid slot.
Looks like we've games just sort of placed him a little bit. Yep, there we go.
We're away. Looks like an okay start from Shane Witt. Steve's got an okay start as well.
Yeah, Shane's got the best start of the first 2 rows, it looks like.
Go through the long shot. But turn 1, looks like everybody...
Someone wide at turn 1, haven't seen who.
Biggest loser from turn 1 is Big Dog, who's gone down to 5th.
And Shane Witt's got a massive lead over Stoy, 1.4 seconds in one corner. So although Stoy didn't drop any spots, he was very conservative and dropped a lot of time. And we got Poiter into P3, so he's up 2 spots, and Scott Morrill right behind him, P4. And now Big Dog has got Barnesy right next to him into the penultimate turn.
Shane Witt with more issues in that penultimate corner, as has Steve Bolger. They were both fairly sideways through there, running wide, but both managing to get it back on,
and
both
Barnesy,
wide through the final corner as well.
And Barnesy ran the outside of the penultimate turn. He did cut the track and overtook there, so he probably should give up that position, but looks like he's not going to. Big Dog, he's going to lose that, was looking to lose that position to Coulson, who's all over the back of it.
Steve has got a lot of pressure on at the moment as Shane Witt goes wide at turn 1. That's probably going to be another track cut, but I went 2 already.
And they're going to be 3 wide into turn 2 as Scott Morrill and Poiter come together a little bit.
Bit rude there from those guys, but all still pointing in the right direction for now, so...
Coulson to the inside of Big Dog, who's now down to 7th.
Oh, come on, Foley, try harder.
So after all that, yeah, Steve finds himself down in P4, so another...
With Shane Witt 3 seconds ahead of Poiter in 2nd place.
2.8 seconds at the second split line here, so he's off in the distance. But Poiter was probably the quickest driver in the race, in race 1, at least of the front runners. We didn't see too much of Shane Witt after, obviously, his spins and he was down the field.
Poiter tries to break the toe behind him coming up the start-finish straight into turn 1 now.
And Morrill late on the brakes, and both he and Stoy run wide, and Big Dog and Brian Walsh ran wide.
We've got Barnesy in this fight for 2nd place now. He's right on the back of these guys.
Yeah, so we've got a 4-car battle, and Mike Coulson's right there, as is Big Dog. So bit of a Poiter train at the moment. As you see Barnesy having a look, and even he's got a decent run on Stoy in front of him. He's going for it. Will he pull it up though?
Side.
Stoy trying to go. He's trying to go back up the inside. He should get it, but Barnesy trying to hold down the outside.
They both had moments there. One going off the track, the other one getting a little bit.
That'll be a track cut. Now Mike Coulson's got a good run. He's got past Stoy, and he's going to have a. Will he have a look into turn 1 on Barnesy?
He's off the track.
Well, that's his line. We did see that a little bit in qualifying and in race 1, that he does like to go all the way across to the barrier there to give him a wider line into turn 1 there.
Are we allowing that?
Well, the game's not penalising, so why not?
I'm going to penalise him.
Okay.
I don't care.
Okay, Star.
Hey! We're in fucking Austria. Arnold. Our timing's gone wonky with Stoy once again. He's currently showing in 11th place, but also 8 tenths behind whoever he was behind initially. So
he's currently side by side with Coulson, and he's going to get that position into penultimate turn. But Coulson, he's lost the back end. Oh, he's been clipped.
That's contact.
He's been clipped by Big Dog, and Big Dog has got a big ding on the front of that Mini, so hopefully he unchecks the damage at the pit stop, otherwise he'll have a very long pit stop as Poiter sets the fastest lap of the race of 102.1, but he's still 2.3 seconds behind Shane Witt in the lead.
We've just had Barnesy and Bolger get a little bit wide turn 1. I'm not sure if they get a track cut for that. It was very marginal.
Barnesy, it's cost him a bit, and Steve up the inside. Bit of contact.
Barnesy, that's spun Steve around, and Barnesy has got out ahead of him. He's now got Big Dog getting around Steve.
So we'll have a look at that. That was a bit naughty there from Barnesy. He ran wide and tried to defend, and then sort of cut down on Steve and sent him around. So
now we've got a few cars here together from Big Dog down to Coulston, 5th to 8th of all, within about a second of each other, as Coulston appears to have had issues in the penultimate corner and allowed Big Dog to go. See ya.
Yeah, Coulston's struggling at the moment. Oh, he's gone wide at the final turn as well. It's going to give Gary Neville a decent run. Gary Neville didn't have a good qualifying session, but we saw in the first race that he was nice and consistent, and that helped him get up to a good P4 result for him.
At the front, Guida is doing some very quick laps like we saw in race 1, but I've just watched the last lap or two. He's locking tyres a lot again, and he's really on the edge of track cuts. Marginal if he's getting them or not. He's right on the limit.
Well,
He is treating his tyres a little bit more kindly this time around, though.
that said, we did see him get a penalty in the first race, a drive-through penalty for obviously track extending and track cutting. But,
Oh, he's pushing it the whole way around, so he doesn't seem to have learnt his lesson.
we will
'Cause
see.
he's right on the edge of the track, absolutely everywhere, and a couple of spots you say are borderline getting that track cut.
We'll see. That lap,
He
fastest
sets
lap.
the fastest
So-
lap, 102.102. That's the best time I've ever seen!
Is mind blown for El Chief. So that
He's
wasn't
double jacked kicking my ass, otherwise that wouldn't be so good.
so that wasn't a track cut at penultimate turn, but I think a couple more mil and it would have been. Gap currently
Yeah,
down
not
to
far off at all.
1.7 seconds now to Shane Witt in front of him. Scott Morrell is too far behind either, and behind him got Barnesy in P4, who might come under a bit of scrutiny after we see spinning Steve around at turn 2 there, not giving enough racing room. Behind him, Big Dog is trying to get back in the groove, although he's got a bit of front end damage from
Oh, Poiter very wide at the second last corner, hasn't got a penalty, so he still must have one or two left in the bank, but he's got to be on the edge now.
just have a look and see. It did give him a lap time that time around, so
I do know from the Lancer race that I did hear a few months ago.
The
that
excellently broadcast Lancer race.
Yes, if you extend your run when you're off the track and make sure you're not going like ridiculously fast, you can sometimes avoid getting the cut.
His name's Poiter, he's not thinking that quickly.
I believe he's got one on this lap though. He's got one on this lap because his first sector hasn't come up, and Scott Morrell and Shane Witts has. So there's at least one cut that we know of. But behind them we've got Big Dog. Looks like he's going to pin actually. He's got his pit crew ready, but in front of him he's battling with Barnesy in front of him.
Big Dog is coming in, but he's gone outside.
Oh, he's hit the barrier.
That's
He's hit the
literally
barrier.
the worst pit entry I've ever seen. First going outside the line of the pit entry and then crashing twice on the way in.
And that's going to be a DNF, I think. He's stopped, and unfortunately that's the end of Big Dog's race, so a bit disappointing.
Yes, we've just received word that after his performance tonight, his wife has in fact left him.
Well, not a surprise really. Quite a disappointing result, obviously crashing on the pit entry there. Still not as bad as David Coulthard in the 1995 Australian Grand Prix at Adelaide, where he was leading the race and binned it on pit entry.
Lewis Hamilton, China, 2007.
It was also a fantastic moment. I didn't jump up for joy at all after that.
Blessed.
He was #blessed. As we see Barnesy trying to hold off Steve, but Barnesy
We've
all over the place.
got... Yeah, that's who I just saw because I forgot that Steve wasn't leading the race. Once again, he has struggled early on in the race. That's something he does need to work on. He's having a look at Barnesy here into turn 1. He's got back behind him. to try and get the run out of the first corner. Got a little bit better in exit, but not enough, I don't think, to really challenge for the move unless he brakes quite a lot later.
And he does seem very conservative when behind other cars. Like, he does seem like he should be a bit faster than Barnesy in front of him, but you can see it in the braking zones. He does seem a little bit tentative, and he probably should want to be a little bit more aggressive to give him a better run, especially right now, coming into the penultimate turn, which is one of the better overtaking points on the track.
Mike Coulston down in 7th place. He has just under a second behind him to Gary Neville as well. Those two will be fighting it out for the 7th place spot, and both probably not too happy with their performances. They both had reasonable form of late and would be expecting to be a couple spots higher up.
Well, at the moment, it's got to be said though that Brian Walsh, he's up 3 spots. He's doing a good job at the moment. Nice solid job up in P6. His last lap time wasn't too good, but that said, faster than Coulston and Neville.
It looks like Shane Witt is being a little bit conservative at the penultimate corner due to the issues he must have had in race 1. Because he's braking a little bit earlier than he was last race, and so far he hasn't had any issues.
I believe we also momentarily had Stoyev get in front of Barnesy.
We got Poiter entering the pits.
Poiter in the pits. It looks like Barnesy may be doing the same. I'll keep you posted on that.
Yeah, looks like he's entering the pits as well. Yeah, very slow into the pits for him, but he's taking the pit entry the correct way, unlike everybody else who seems to just cut across the white line.
Well, I mean, listening to the briefing is something that we don't recommend, especially if you then proceed to call people out on air for doing the right thing after the race.
True.
I'm getting more controversial as the drinks go down.
True.
Again, I don't want to name names.
The lead between Shane Witt and Poiter had come down to, I believe, 1.3 seconds before obviously Poiter entered the pits. So it will be interesting to see if he does undercut it. But it looks like Shane Witt is entering the pits and Scott Morrell's pit crew are ready as well.
Got Barnesy back underway after his pit stop.
And yeah, Shane Witt entering the pits, as is
Glenn
Scott.
Miles. Glenn Miles is in as well. He's just got underway again, down in 10th place, last of our runners at the moment, and the only DNF being that of Big Dog!
And, well, with Witt and Morrell in the pits, it's going to give Stoyev the lead.
Coulston is also in pits.
Yep. So just going through it, looks like Coops down the back. He's been struggling a bit in this race. Looks like he's going to enter the pits as well.
Hope he's got some chooks.
And Scott Morrell has lost a lot of time to Poiter. And Shane Witt looks like he might lose out to Poiter as well. It's going to be very close. No. Shane Witt holds on just, but that gap has come down, I think.
And the gap to Murrell, as you said, has got quite larger.
Yeah, Morrell perhaps.
Look, haven't we all?
Yeah, well, that's what Krispy Kreme and KFC do to one's body. Shout out to Krispy Kreme for making fantastic donuts.
Oh, what the crap did my microphone just
Gary Neville entering the pits, Brian Walsh going on, as is Steve. Steve on that last lap setting his fastest lap, so his tyres seem to be holding up quite nicely. But obviously being held up behind Barnesy for such a considerable amount of time has probably taken him out of contention for the race, barring obviously a couple errors from obviously our front runners. As Poiter, 1 minute 2.06, fastest lap of the race. As Shane gets sideways. Shane gets sideways through turn 1. That's going to give Poiter a bit of incentive to possibly have a look into turn 2. He's
going for the inside. It looks like he may have got it up there. He has.
He's got it done.
Move there from Poiter.
And Shane giving him the racing room there, which is what we like to see. Something that well, we didn't see from Barnesy. So now
Stoyev in the pits.
see Shane Witt has got a bit of a slipstream. As Witt goes defensive into the penultimate turn and gets it sideways. That's going to give Witt well, I would have thought it would have given him a decent run in the final turn, but Witt was a bit conservative. Sideways again. Poiter.
Oh, Witt off the track there. No penalties come up, so it looks like he's still got 1 or 2 left in the bank as well.
Will his lap count? We'll see as he crosses the start-finish line. No,
No,
so
it doesn't look like it has. No, there we go. Just come up then for me.
Yeah, a bit late there. So 10th between the leaders here.
What's his? It's too late. I'm sorry, guys.
Steve.
Oh no.
Just have another drink, mate. Just have another.
Okay. Stand by.
Well, he's taken the lead, has Poiter, but he's not been convincing once he's got there.
He does have the lead though, and that is half the job of winning a race.
True. That said though, the way he's been driving since he's taken the lead, if he keeps driving like that, he won't be in the lead for long. Shane can just be a little bit more aggressive. That's gonna be
very wide.
That'll be a track cut for both of them, and Poiter goes defensive once again into turn 1. I think Shane's just got a...
Now, no times come up for Poiter, and Shane Witt has got a time up on that one. Poiter doesn't though, so he probably only has one. He's probably on his final warning.
I think if Shane is smart here, if he just hasn't looked up, the inside of a couple of corners and just keeps that pressure on, I think he'll find that Poiter will make a mistake again into either the penultimate or final turn. And get a track cut.
He's just got to fill those mirrors right now and just get into his head.
That's it. It's just
get him to push that a little bit harder in the right spots, and he'll.
Well, he's got to.
He won't actually have to pass for the win.
That's it. It's being a bit smart. He won't have to obviously risk an overtake. But that said, he's very close and got a good run into the penultimate turn. And sideways again. Poiter is really pushing that front left tyre, and he's going to go. That'll be another track cut. So that's at least 3.
This is going to be close now. This is going to be very close.
He hasn't got a penalty. He's squeezing Shane a little
Doesn't
bit.
have to line. He's got a lap time for it.
He has. So he must have lifted, but it's going to be tight. And Shane Witt gets out of it, but that'll be a track cut for sure. And he kept his foot in it.
Out in front. There's no penalty coming up though.
He kept his foot in as Stuyves hits the fastest lap.
It's still not as good as the time we saw earlier of the 102.102.
But I think we'll find that Poiter will be on his last warning for that one, because he did keep the lead by keeping his foot in. He did lift that time.
It did stretch out by a tenth or so as well.
Throughout this battle, Scott Murrell's got the gap down by 3 seconds. It was 8, now it's down to 5. So he is catching as these two battle each other.
It's 4.5 actually in the last split, so 4.7. Sideways again.
That's a bold entry.
I don't think Poiter wants that.
This is going to give. Shane's got a massive run on him here though. He's chasing him across the track. He's going to be up the inside here.
Squeezing once again.
This is just stupid to be honest with you, but we'll gloss over that.
I think Shane's best chance might actually be to go around the outside of turn 1 as Poiter goes defensive early into turn 2. He really wants this win. Shane has the line. But he's cut off.
I can't see this battle ending well.
Yes, it's very aggressive from Poiter. Shane's got a good run, but has to lift, otherwise we ran in the back of Poiter there.
Mirror's taken another 7/10.
The way these two are driving at the moment, that's not surprising at all. You get some people who can fight like this and they won't really take much time off each other and they'll be a lot closer to each other. As Witt's gone a long way off
and he's lost it. He's lost the back end and cost himself the race. He shouldn't have lifted. He should have kept some form of throttle on, and well, that's now gifted the race win to Poiter.
He still could have issues with the track cuts though. He needs to back off now and just play it safe, though he does have Murrell closing in on him. Though without the opposition now, that could make his life a lot easier.
The problem now for Shane Witt is going to be that Stuyves behind him. He's been running quite nicely in clear air.
Meanwhile, we should give another shout out to Brian Walsh in 5th place. Another very strong performance. We saw him a few weeks ago. He should have got himself a podium, but a late mistake ending his chances there. And 5th place tonight would be a fantastic result for Brian, I think.
Yeah, obviously he didn't qualify too well for this second race here, but he's kept himself out of trouble and hasn't made a mistake that we've seen. I'm pretty sure if he had have made a mistake, he'd probably be behind Gary Neville behind him. So he's done a fantastic job, and I think Barnesy must have made a mistake because he's well behind him now. So Barnesy was in front of him earlier on in the race. So Brian Walsh done a very good job so far in P5.
As we have Poiter just lapping the number 2 car of Coops at turn 1. Doesn't look like that's cost him anything. Got out of the way nicely there.
Shane Witt wide at turn 1.
So Shane sort of lost his head a little bit after that mistake at turn 2. He's got 3.5 seconds to Steve behind him, and well, about 6 seconds to Scott Merle in front of him with a couple laps to go.
Yeah, well, the tyre top 4 are relatively safe at the moment. The closest battle on track, according to my timing.
Oh, Bruno!
Oh, Poiter
There it
with
is.
the penalty. There we go.
He pushed too hard at the penultimate turn. I was about to say that looked like he might get a penalty for that, and well, there it is on screen. Poiter pushed too hard.
We were just saying he just needs to settle in and bring the car home and just try and set a good, consistent pace as we have Murrell in the background getting past Coops as well.
It's a short lap time around here. You're not going to lose a second a lap by taking it easy through that. Well, to turn 1 you can
Just
do
those,
it.
those higher speed corners, you just take off 5 k's an hour on the apex, and you're not going to run wide.
Yeah, so that's a silly mistake. He's thrown away an easy win.
He was definitely pushing because he moved that gap to Murrell out by another second once that battle was over. So he's unnecessarily pushing.
Yeah, so
Going for lap time, and he's not taking the penalty. Just like he'll take the post-race penalty, which is actually worse than a drive-through.
we did see you get one in the first race, and it didn't seem to cost him all that much. But yeah, this one will cost him 20. It will be 25 seconds, I believe.
Yeah, we almost would have been, almost certainly better to take the drive-through.
I'm pretty sure it would have been. He might have even been just behind Bolger.
He may have even been ahead of him. You do cut off a fair bit of the last and first corner on pit entry as someone's gone incredibly wide at turn 2. And, well, that's certainly changed the race. Well, I'm still looking at Poiter, but we really should turn our attention to Scott Murrell, who is effectively the leader of the race now.
So it looks like Bruno is. I don't know if he's going to pit. It doesn't look like he is. No, he's slowing down, but I do believe he'll still get the 25-second penalty because he's serving it on the last lap. He's lost it in the pit lane. He's lost it on the entry to the pit lane, pushing too hard again, and well, that'll cost him a little bit more time as well.
You can't take the penalty on the final lap.
So
otherwise, you're not really taking the whole penalty.
But while that happens, Scott Murrell crosses the line to take victory in race 2. Bruno has been overtaken by Shane Witt. So Shane Witt
Registering
P2.
is third, but he's just been bumped down to 4th place. It has
Bolger P3. And then looks like Poiter in P4. So I believe it did give him the 25 seconds. And
Scott Murrell with some terrible reverse donuts. It's just disappointing in every aspect.
And Brian Walsh is going to hold on for a very good P5 for him. He's got Gary Neville right behind him. So both those guys very consistent in race 2, with obviously Brian getting the better of him there with a very consistent and very nice race there. P5, Gary Neville P6. Barnesy P7. He was up there for a while, but mistakes cost him. Finishes P7. Mike Coulston P8. Again, he made a couple of little errors and finds himself lodged into a stock car extreme side. He's P8. Glenn Miles P9. Finished this time. Not too bad as well. No dings on the car. not bad from him. P9, Troops, P10, and Big Dog being the only retirement. So I'm just going to go through and try and find someone doing reverse derbies. There we go. This is, again, this is why we all tune in to see these minis just run into each other and do reverse derbies.
Barnsley's doing some alright ones at the moment.
Yeah, it's the only one really doing it at the moment, which is quite disappointing. So all you rookies out there, you've all been sacked, and we'll get some new rookies for round 6. Except for obviously Barnsley, who was doing it. But we'll see, an interesting race there. As we have a look at the results on the screen, obviously Scott Murrell, nice and consistent. Didn't make too many mistakes in that one. Did drop back a little bit in the middle part of the race as Shane Witt and Poida drove away a little bit, but he didn't make a mistake unlike the other two, and found himself obviously the winner. And Steve, once again, conservative start, and it cost him. It didn't cost him so much, obviously, in the first race, taking out a win, but did make him work for it. And then in the second race there, it cost him quite badly, being stuck behind, I believe it was Barnsley for a while there.
Foley, I think you were probably listening better than I was, so I think you would have the better follow-up statement.
I agree with what Lewis said.
You're very terrible at giving these comments.
I've taught him well. I can just guess. I agree with Lewis.
Okay. Now, I do know, Scruff, that you do like it when obviously Foley says that, but I do like to have someone else have a little bit of input, so quite disappointing. But
Scott Murrell deserved the win, in my opinion. Just consistent driving.
Yeah.
Won him that race without unnecessary pushing the limits of the track, and just focusing on not making mistakes, really.
Yeah, well, in the end, that's what racing comes down to, is just not making as many mistakes as your opponent. Obviously, pace does help, but we did see, obviously, a perfect example also down the field in that second race, where Brian Moss didn't make as many mistakes as, obviously, Gary Neville and Mike Coulston, and he probably wasn't quite as fast as those guys, but obviously he didn't make a mistake, and he was a nice P5 for himself down there. So it does work on any level or any tier. It's just racing comes down to not making mistakes and being comfortable and being within sort of your own limits and obviously the limits of the track, because obviously there was 2 races in a row where we did see Peter in decent positions, and he threw results away and a win away in that second race there by unnecessarily extending and cutting the track.
It's been great to see Walshy start getting these results. He's been with the group since pretty much day one, and starting to finally come together a bit for him, and hopefully we see that continue.
He's focusing really hard on his consistency, I believe, and it's really starting to pay off for him.
Well, we've seen it obviously here in the Rookie Cup, obviously the last couple of rounds, but obviously yesterday we did have the Farmers 400. It was one of only 4 drivers to finish, and that was 111 laps and around a borough, and that's not an easy track to drive. So to go 111 laps around there without blowing an engine or ripping a wheel off, obviously just shows how far he's come from obviously the start of the Automobilista year. So, we have been joined by a few of the runners. Obviously, we'll go to Scott Murrell, winner of race 2. We'll just speak more about race 2. I can't actually remember too much from race 1. I do apologise, but obviously race 2 there, Scott, not too bad a start. But obviously that middle part of the race, after obviously Shane and Peter got ahead of you, sort of dropped off a little bit, but you were nice and consistent, and you didn't make as many mistakes, and you brought home a win.
Yeah, no, exactly right, as you guys said earlier. Consistency was key. I was finding I was just chewing my tyres a little bit too much, trying to keep pace with the front two. So just backed off a little, just to try and save the tyres.
Well, that's it. We did see Poida in that, especially in that second race, push his tyres, that front left, to the absolute extremes, and obviously did it one time too many. Understeered off at the penultimate turn, which is easy to do, and got a track cut. So, and obviously because of that, that gave you quite an easy win in the end.
Yeah, hate winning a race like that, but unfortunately those things happen.
I don't know why you'd hate winning a race like that, because, well, you didn't break the rules. He did, so... So, obviously... Pardon me. Sorry about that. Obviously, race 1, obviously, could you talk us a little bit about that? Obviously, I can't remember too much, so I do apologise. How did race 1 sort of treat you a bit there?
Got off to a fantastic start. I knew I was keeping the guys up behind me. Just didn't quite have the initial pace they did. Made them fight for it the whole way through. And then after that, just kept going and going, trying not to get track cuts. And in the end, paid off for, I believe, a third.
Yeah, not bad. So, obviously, 2 decent results. You are, I think, a fair way back in the championship, though, unfortunately. Obviously, only was the previous round, so... But still, obviously, good start.
Not... Sorry, Lewis.
Obviously...
And not in...
Sorry, go on.
And really not in it for the points in this one. Just really enjoy driving around with these guys, giving them a few pointers here and there. And yeah, it's always just great fun racing with them.
Good to hear. Obviously, there is our winner of race 2, and obviously podium get up with a P3 in race 1 in Scott Morrill. So well done again. Couple solid results for you.
Thanks, Lewis. Thanks, Brenton, and Boo Scruff.
And ban buttons right there.
We've also been joined by, well, in Discord, it's called Cruiser. I'm trying to remember who that is in...
Steve.
It is Steve. Hopefully, at some point, you do create a Discord name called Steve, which would help us a little bit. But obviously, not the most ideal start in either race, once again. Seems to be a trouble spot that keeps plaguing you. But
there's a little pattern going on.
Yeah, obviously, pole position for race 1 with a very good lap time, but once again, a bad start in race 1, and you're stuck behind people where they probably held you up a little bit.
Race 1 I wasn't too concerned. I only got behind a couple, wasn't a lot of close fighting, and got past them pretty easily. And then it was pretty comfortable until I spun on the last corner. But race 2 was a shock.
Yeah, race 2, obviously, didn't quite get pole position. You were in the front row, but you dropped... Your first lap wasn't too bad, but obviously you did drop down a couple spots behind, I believe it was Barnsey, and from there you couldn't really recover as you were a good, 10 or so seconds behind the leaders in front.
Yeah, just kept falling backwards over the first 3 or 4 laps. Got down to about 6 and about 15 seconds behind, and made some progress from there, but only due to a late penalty got a podium, I think.
Do you know what it is that you struggle with at an early stage of a race?
Going fast.
Well, you don't seem to have that issue in qualifying or in the races once you do get going, but it does seem to be... Is it something, a confidence thing on the first couple laps, or is you being too conservative, or is there anything...
Possibly conservative. Joining a new group, I want to go making a reputation for T-boning people too often, but and want to keep going the whole race. But yeah, probably overdoing the conservative stuff.
Fair enough. But obviously you did close the points gap in the championship. Obviously you were a good 41 points behind, and obviously with a win in race 1, cut that down by 15 points to, I believe it was 26, I believe, and then obviously third. So that's 16 or so points now between you and Ross, with 3 rounds remaining. So obviously him not being here has helped in the championship, but it's still going to be a bit difficult trying to call that back by not taking the win in that second race there.
Yeah, Rossi just seems to come first or second in most of the races. So him not being here obviously helps a lot, makes it a bit interesting, but going to need to perform pretty consistently to get him.
Obviously, a first and third keeping you in the hunt though for obviously the championship, but pole position, race 1 winner and third place certainly helping you out this weekend. So congratulations, and hopefully another strong result in the next round will bring you right back in it.
Thanks, boys. Look forward to it.
Cheers. Okay, so for the Automobilista Australia group, we do have a couple obviously events coming up. Obviously on Thursday night we do have the Super Series, so that is the Lancer RSs and the Lancer Rs. I'm just trying to...
Barber.
At Barber, yes, so at Barber Motorsport Park, that will be brought to you by ARW TV, so I believe Stairs is back for that one. I'm not sure if Bagsy or...
It will be Stairs and Nether for that one.
Yep, so
I believe that they will be... Stairs will be back in his typical location of Adelaide by then.
or Afghanistan, as some people refer it. And on Sunday is the real life Bathurst 1000. So for Automobilista Australia, there is no official events, but I believe Lee Sanford is hosting a sort of Bathurst hot lap.
I made the horrible error of saying that I'd commentate that for them. And I've commentated every round that we've had in the last 7 days, and I'm sick of it.
I don't think it's an actual official sort of racer event. So I think it's just
he asked, I said yeah.
Well, that'll be a pretty boring afternoon for you, or weekend.
I'll be quite drunk watching actual V8s and watching fools like yourself do that.
I'll be too busy watching the actual event as opposed to driving.
as
so.
well.
I said fools like yourself.
But how's it like myself when I'm not doing it?
Well, you're not like yourself, you are yourself.
Yes.
Thankfully, I'm not like Lewis, so I won't be there either.
And obviously on...
We like Lewis.
If. It's a big if. And on Monday is obviously the return, the Touring Car Championship. That will be from Ribeiro Preto. That is the 2012 layout. So that will be a hashtag Wreckfest. It is a very, very tight street circuit. So that'll be interesting to see. And then I believe next Thursday will be the will be another Wreckfest. Most likely it will be the AMS Australia Monaco Grand Prix. So
If you watch the Albert Park round, expect much of the same.
except damage is now 50% instead of 100. So hopefully we do see more finishes for that one. But thanks to all who tuned in, and hopefully we will see you, or hopefully you're racing next Monday. And obviously we do hope to see you guys, well, not us personally, hopefully the ARW TV crew have you watching on Thursday. So from obviously myself, Bretton Foley and El Chief, we do hope you enjoyed the broadcast, and have a good one.